All right, let's move on then. India's wine industry is in focus, and we're putting the spotlight on Sula going forward. Now, the country's wine industry is bracing for a shake-up with foreign trade agreements, including the UK FTA already signed and talks progressing with the EU and US. Imported wines could perhaps soon hit Indian shelves at sharply lower prices. Sula Vineyards CEO Rajeev Samant tells CNBC-TV18's Sheeren Bhan that the sector has been preparing for this, but is urging the government to enforce a minimum import price to level the playing field. Here is a slice from that conversation.
You know, one of the big changes that we're potentially going to see in the Indian spirits market, in the wine market as well, is going to be foreign competition. Now with the FTAs being inked or likely to be inked, the India-EU FTA, the US FTA as and when it happens, UK has been done. And, you know, the Alco-Bev industry is saying this is bad news. How do you see it?
It's happening. And it's something that we have been gearing up for the longest time. We've known, always known, and we've been told by Commerce Ministry officials that, look, what we have here is not going to last forever. Gear up, be ready. And now it's here. So there's a lot of work that we need to do to gear for that. The market is going to expand. There's no question about it. I do believe that there should be a minimum import price. That's something that we've made our position very clear to the Commerce Ministry, and we are always in discussion. So we do have a seat at the table, I must say that. They're very aware of the fact that this is one of those few very farmer-friendly industries that's actually doing well. But yes, it is coming. There are going to be cheaper imported wines available. We also have to see whether we also want to play more in that business.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that.
But, you know, our wines have to speak for themselves. They have to speak for Nasik. They have to be of quality and of the price that appeals to the consumer. At the end of the day, you can't get away from that. And I do believe we're in a far stronger position today than where we were 10 years ago. We are ready to compete.
So, you know, you said you're ready to compete. What's the strategy going to be as and when we do see the changes take place? Because a lot of these FTAs are still work in progress outside of the UK. But, you know, what is the strategy going to be? And going global, you know, we're talking about people entering India. What about Indian wines going global?
So Indian wines going global, that's going to be a little bit of a tougher proposition.
Why?
I think that Indian spirits probably have you know, they have such a long history. Indian wines are a little bit new, you know, competing with French. Let's talk about in India. You know, we have maybe a 6-month window in which we got to get our wines onto every single list. Once your wine is on a list, it's much harder to get it off. But if it's not on the list in the first place, then when you have your imports coming on, those wines are going to probably come on there. So
you're really factoring in just a 6-month window?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's not a very long window.
It's not a very long window at all. So we are just working double right now to make sure that putting our wines in front of more people, boosting our tastings and experiences, getting on every wine list, boosting availability. That's what we're after right now.
So, you know,
those are the kinds of sort of nuts and bolts things that you got to do. And of course, quality has to speak for itself. Now you have a few different kinds of consumers. You have consumers for whom they always go for imported and foreign. But you have enough consumers also who are looking for something good that's produced in India, and they can say with pride, this, what I'm buying here from India, is easily as good as what I'm going to get from imported at the same price point. So we're going to appeal to them.
You know, going back to the India-EU FTA, and what is the ask, if anything, outside of do a minimum import price of the government, considering the fact that, you know, whether it's the EU or other countries, subsidies are fairly high, even in this sector. You know, is there a wish list that you've given the government?
See, we make it very clear, EU and UK are quite different. The UK doesn't give that much subsidy, for instance, to their spirits companies. The EU, on the other hand, for them, wine and vineyards is so important. They give something like 1 billion euros a year in support in one way or the other.
1 billion euros a year?
1 billion euros a year under their common agriculture policy, the EU CAP, to their wine and vineyards. I mean, that's huge. How are we supposed to compete? We get a smidgen, maybe our wine industry gets €500,000 a year from the center. What we have had until now is tariffs. So we always point out that there's a big difference between spirits from the UK and wine from the EU. How are we supposed to compete when wines come in at €0.50 a bottle, which can happen? But I do believe that the Commerce Ministry is very cognizant of this. And so, you know, let's see.
All right, that is Mr. Samant of Sula Vineyards saying that how is Indian industry, the Indian alcobev industry, particularly wines, how is it supposed to compete when you have a war chest of 1 billion euros in subsidies every year that the EU is giving to the wine industry, whether it's France, whether it's other countries. Interesting times. Let's see how Sula competes.